So please join me in warmly welcoming Reverend Wendy Yacboski.
Good morning. Welcome home. Welcome home to exactly where you sit, exactly who you are, exactly what you desire, and everything that you aspire to is right where you are. And welcome, family of unity, and welcome, family that come from any truth teaching that have joined us today. So the title of my talk is Walking Each Other Home. And this morning what came to me is that it is a journey that I'm hoping to take you on, planning to take you on from alone to all one. I'm going to begin with a story about Mr. or Mrs. Jones. Unfortunately, they die, but they go to heaven. And when they arrive, St. Peter is waiting at the pearly gates, and he takes them on a tour of heaven. How exciting is this? They're absolutely awestruck. The streets are paved with gold, beautiful mansions glisten in the sunshine, and choirs of angels are singing the most beautiful songs that we just heard. Partway through this tour of heaven, Mr. and Mrs. Jones's eye is drawn to an odd-looking building. An enormous warehouse with no windows and just one door. It looks like a really odd structure to be in heaven, given what I've just shared. St. Peter says, "You don't really want to see what's in there." "But I do, they said. So he races across the lawn, he is in Mr. Jones, and pushes open the door to discover rows and rows of shelves, floor to ceiling. And stacked on the shelves are thousands of white boxes of all sizes. And the boxes all have names on them. "Is there one with my name on it?" Mr. Jones says, as he rushes to the J aisle. He finds the box with his name on it, and he opens it up. His mouth drops. His pulse starts to quicken. And finally he says to St. Peter, "What are all these wonderful things inside my box? Are they the good things in store for me now that I've reached heaven?" And a sad look by St. Peter, he says, "Actually, Mr. Jones, they're all the blessings you asked for and God wanted you to receive while you were alive on earth, but which you never received or allowed." And then Mr. Jones, he looks into the box at St. Peter and then back to the box, and he asks St. Peter, "Why? Why did I miss out on all those blessings?" "Well, that's a long story," replied St. Peter. So I'm going to begin to share some of that story with you. The story that could be true for you, the story that was true for me. But first I'm going to ask you a question. Have you ever felt alone in a crowd of people? Have you ever felt alone in a small group of people? Have you ever felt alone with one other person? Have you ever felt alone by yourself? I know I have, every one of those. So I'm going to take you back into my life, personal story. So for various subjective reasons, when I was young, I experienced, as my brother did, but to own it, I experienced abandonment by both of my parents separately. First my mother, and then my father. And as you can imagine, at the young age of probably about 6, I took it personally. I'm thinking, this must be about me. This must be who I am. And through the years since, I struggled throughout life to be enough, to feel valued, wanted, and essential. And no matter who I was with, I stayed to myself, and I felt conspicuous in my pain. And maybe some of you share this story in your own way. In a recent 5-day course that I just took, I learned about the term invitations. And these are the things that we say and do, and others say and do, as an invitation for help. It could be a lot of help needed. It could be a small amount of help needed. But it's an invitation to come forward or go forward to a person to help them. And this is something that doesn't have to be a hugely difficult time in life. It can be. Sometimes it's just about getting through the day. But it's really important. And why is it important that I'm sharing my personal story with you and what I'm about to share? It's because I think for many of us, this is the experience that we're going through, where we feel alone, we feel different, and we are sending out invitations. Sometimes we're aware of these invitations that we're sending out, and sometimes we're not. It might be the way that we're looking one day, maybe feeling a bit low or down. It might be something where someone says, I just don't think I can cope anymore. This is just too much for me. It could be, I don't know what to do now that my relationship is over. It's an invitation to connect. But it's an invitation that is really, really demanding of listening. I don't think there's any gift that we can give anyone that is greater than actually listening without advising. Perhaps you know that as well. So when I was 25, I reached the point that many have heard about, referred to by Anais Nin, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, where the pain of remaining contracted and small or tight in the bud was greater than the fear I had of blossoming. So I realized that I needed to ask for help in order to move forward, whereas before then I thought I shouldn't need help. Anyone recognize that? Should be able to do this on my own. So thankfully I did reach out, and thankfully others reached back to me. What I came to learn through a variety of self-help and other help is that I was living safe. I was living safe in self-protection so that I would not be abandoned again or rejected again or hurt again. I'm going to read you something, The Perfection of God. In my morning reading, I came across something called Leather and Lace that I think speaks to this well. It's by Reverend Bob Lucken, and it's in the Science of Mind magazine for June 2019. So he says, the jacket is made of leather, and so is the pain, the past, and all the days that don't end well. Leather is tough, and it needs to be. Some of us wear it on the outside. Most of us have learned to wear it on the inside. After a while, it becomes invisible. People poke at you, and you poke back. People say hateful things, and you learn to speak hate in a voice that makes them tremble. You learn to be on top and in charge, even when you have no idea what to do. Winning means no one can catch you. You are not an island. You are a mountain made of solid rock. You are alone. Being alone is safe. You meet someone, maybe a woman, maybe a man. They aren't wearing leather. They grew up wearing lace. You can't see the lace, but you can feel it. There is something inside you that says, take off your jacket, lower your voice, stop fighting. It's a voice that scares you. You take off your outside jacket, but you know you are going to have to let go of the one you've been wearing on the inside too. You walk away 1,000 times, but your feet won't move. You have met love. Eye to eye, heart to heart, and soul to soul. You know it's time to change, time to breathe, time to smile and laugh and love. You take off the jacket you have been wearing on the inside. Today is your day to enjoy the taste of freedom. I think that speaks so well to experiences that I know I've had and am still working with, and I trust for some of you as well. In the healing, the personal healing that I was doing over the years, in particular after 25, I thought I was independent, and I was really proud of being independent. But learning through others that reached back to me, what I came to learn was that I wasn't in fact independent. I was isolated, and there's a difference. And that real life, joyful life, life that's giving back as well as giving forward, is interdependence with others, because we don't do it alone. No matter what it looks like, what it feels like, what we tell ourselves, we need each other. There's a universal principle that I learned in a book that I will refer to a bit later that says that we all need to believe and come to know 3 things. I am of worth, my feelings matter, and someone really cares about me exactly as I am. You know, so many of us are conditioned as to what is acceptable as a person, what we need to be in order to be successful or loved or attractive or whatever it might be. And to go beyond this can be really scary because, again, we feel alone, but it's not until we step out that we find we're not alone. We need to and get to show up. And it takes not only love, it takes courage. I'm reminded of last night when I was driving home from a gathering with some friends. On the side of the road, sitting on the ground, cross-legged, I noticed a woman, and she waved at me, and I thought maybe she wanted something. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm thinking, I have a talk to get ready. I need to sleep tonight. Whatever else came up in my mind that she only wants money, and I don't have any cash on me, so why am I going to stop? But of course, I shouldn't say of course, but something inside me said, Wendy, how are you going to go to that talk and talk about what you're going to talk about and not stop and be there for whatever it is that she needs? So I turned around, the car turned around and went back, and she was gone. Maybe she was waiting for the bus because there was a bus that went. But what's important is that I felt a greater connection with myself for saying yes to going back, which is love, really, rather than the fear of not being able to do what I need to do to be ready for today. Have you ever had that where you were afraid of something happening and you thought, I'm going to face it, and you go and it has changed? I think that that was a divine moment for me. But the truth is, sometimes we see people's invitations. It can go like this, or it can just be by yourself, sitting somewhere in a corner, and we don't go over. And why might that be? I think it is because sometimes we're just too busy or occupied. Sometimes we're afraid that we won't know how to help them or deal with the feelings that they're feeling. Have you ever noticed when somebody's having a hard time, you get a bit of fear inside your gut because you know that feeling and you don't want to go back there right now? Yeah, we get afraid of someone else's emotions, someone else's thoughts. And sometimes we don't do it because we think we're 100% responsible for making something better for that person, and sometimes making everything better. And we all know what it is for us, but there are a lot of reasons that we have that we don't go back and help. But I really call us to be willing to do that, to help know. This is my biggest hope for everyone here today, that you leave here knowing how essential you are to someone and how essential someone can be to you. Because even though we have these separate bodies and apparent separate minds, it can be a stretch to go from God is all and it's one mind and to actually feel like we're all part of this experience together. And what if my helping someone else, in fact, helps me? Not that that's why we do it, but we realize it later, like I did last night. I'm sure you've heard that if you're feeling down or depressed, if you can, try to help someone else, and then somehow it lifts. You feel better for having come out of yourself. So I think that this is the same about being willing. It's not just talking about love, it's about acting in love and trusting that however the talk is going to go, as I was thinking last night, it will be what it is. But last night, when I saw that person on the street, that was the now moment where all power is. I wasn't even in the present yet. So the moment that we notice something, as much as we can, I think it is a divine gift of ours that we can just check in with someone and say, hey, you're looking a little down. How are you feeling? Or is there some way that I can support? Does anyone here feel like they need to have someone else's answers, whether it's their children, whether it's a friend, whether maybe it's a parent that is having a difficult time? I know that I have certainly felt that. 100% responsible, which is a really big burden. But what if not only we, but the person that we're seeing has within them wholeness, ableness, resourcefulness? What if it's okay to not have someone else's answers? What if it's okay to say, I can do this much, but we'll need to find somebody else to do the rest? What if they truly do have their own answers? Have you ever found it either happened for someone else or yourself that when you were feeling really perhaps upset about something and you went and needed to vent with someone or they with you, and when you were just listened to or they were just listened to by you, when they actually let it out, all of a sudden they got an idea of what to do next? I want to share with you just a little story about a young schoolboy whose mom had laryngitis. She couldn't speak. So he was off to school. He came home. He was really mad, and he said, I hate school. I'm not going back. And, normally the mother would say, well, honey, just relax, or, do this, or don't do that, or whatever. She just sat there and listened. And when he was done, he went over to her, gave her a great big hug, and said, thanks, Mom, you're such a help. We have our answers within us. Sometimes we just need time and permission to let go of what's in the way or on top of it. And again, which is really what I just said, what if we only need to accept someone's invitation to listen, to hear, and accept them? And what if helping someone is not being responsible for them, but helping them to see their ability, their strength, their spiritual empowerment within? So I told you I would mention this book that was really helpful to me a long time ago. It's called I Don't Have to Make Everything All Better. I don't have to make everything all better. And it doesn't mean that what I can do isn't enough. But in that book, the authors Gary and Joy Lundberg said that validation, which is one of the key tools of helping somebody feel able and live able, validation of another is walking emotionally with a person until they are able to find their right next step or way. You don't need to take on the emotion, but you can acknowledge the emotion. You can acknowledge that it's okay. And sometimes we just need someone beside us. I'm reminded of a spiritual part of the Bible that says, if you knew who walks beside you, you would not be afraid. And that's an aspiration for me. And perhaps it is for you as well. So Karen Drucker, who I'm sure that many of you are familiar with, an amazing singer, songwriter, and musician, some years ago recorded a song titled, We Are All Angels. And I just want to read you the chorus that speaks to me so well. It says, we are all angels who only have one wing. We are all angels searching for each other. All angels who cannot reach the sky. Because we need each other to fly. It's said that we come into this world alone and we go out alone. But let's think about that, especially in a place like this, in a teaching like this, or any truth teaching. We don't come into this world alone, and we don't leave alone, and we don't live in this world alone. We do nothing alone. Not only the amazing people in our life, whether it is family, whether it is friends, whether it is a spiritual community, whoever it is, we are never alone. But we need to remember, find ways to remind ourselves that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, that we aren't what we think, we aren't what we do. We are that which thinks. We are that which does. We are that which creates. We are that which loves. And we are that which feels low sometimes, but it's not our ultimate truth. We are individuations of God. And I think that languaging can be very important, because when you think that I am an individual, do you feel kind of separate sometimes a little bit? But if you are individuated of something, of God, of spirit, of life and love, then we are that expression of God, never alone, ever. So we are asked by Jesus, the Christ, who says to not judge by appearances. Appearances are fears. Appearances are ideas that are small and that make our life small, that cause us to not move forward when we're feeling called to move forward, whether it's to another human being, whether it's to an opportunity for work or for speaking or for whatever it is. Those are all appearances. Everything is an appearance but God. That's the life energy we're using to create our experience. Let's remember, if you believe that God is all intelligence as one of its aspects, then you need to believe or work to believe or play to believe that God can only create through itself. So we were created intelligently, with intelligence, on purpose, with every aspect of God. A dog can't birth a kitten. And God can't birth anything unlike itself. And when I say birth, I really do mean express, although the birth process is amazing. So the truth is that connection with others begins with our connection with ourself. And the beauty in this world now, thank God, is that there are so many ways we can do that. Some of them expected and some of them unexpected. So let me ask you one more question. When you are feeling God or your spiritual truth, do you feel more able to release your inner leather? That you've been able to step forward, even if you've had to push them out of the way so that you can take another step. But when we know the truth of ourselves, it helps us have self-confidence and trust, and to allow our inner lace. And I promise you, you have inner lace. It's the truth of who you are. It's the truth of who I am. So I just want to close with one more quote by Michael J. Fox. And he's quoted as saying, "Family is not an important thing. It's everything." And like I said earlier, family is not what we may have thought family was quite a few years ago. We're born into family for sure, and we choose our family for sure. So let's choose the family that believes in us, that sees our inner lace, that forgives our inner leather, and walks beside us emotionally until we can find a way through and be all that we're meant to be. Namaste.